foremost, do you think that New Jersey is in swing state territory for the foreseeable future? And what do you think the prospects are for local assembly?
I do not think we're a swing state. I really don't believe that. Although the vice president's margin, it sounds like it's down closer to 4. What did Andy win by? 8 or 9? That's still a good win. Again, I bemoan Sue's losing by, it looks like, 7 or 8. But that district dynamics, top of the ticket. I mean, I think I'll speculate, we'll never know, had the Harris-Walz team had a similar performance to the Biden-Harris result in 2020, my guess is that 7th district would have been a lot closer. But I don't think we're in swing territory. But I tell you, a mistake you could make right now is to put your feet up and think this is just an aberration. And we're not going to do that. In terms of the assembly, I think most of if I had to predict, and again I'm predicting here, I think most of the action, if you will be in the primary on both sides of the aisle. And my gut would tell me that the assembly races in the general would play out in a fairly traditional way. Please.
Governor, what this results meaning for the Latino community, and will you stand by them when the hard times come?
Will I what?
Are you going to stand by the community?
You betcha. I've stood by them from every day, including on some times when it was not easy to do so, when the Trump administration first time out was going after the community, particularly the newly arrived brothers and sisters. We never wavered, and we never will. What does it say? Certainly as a Democrat, you can't, it looks like we may have been taking the Latino community nationally for granted, and shame on us if that's true. You can't do that with any community, and certainly not the Latino community. And we've got to figure out, again, I don't have crisp answers yet, given this just happened, between is there something substantive that we need to change, either as a party or, in my case, as an administration, versus how we communicate with the community. My gut tells me it's probably a little of each. I would just beg, as I have for many, many years, for comprehensive immigration reform, which, by the way, the U.S. Senate had, with great pain, with both sides of the aisle, had come to a great resolution that was very tough, but at the end of the day was supported across the board, and Donald Trump undermined that. We cannot let people forget that. Somehow they did in this election. Please.
Yes, Governor,
I owe you one. I'll come back to you.
You mentioned before, you talked about protecting the state from any type of threats from Washington. Can you talk a little bit more about that? It sounded a little bit cryptic.
No, not cryptic. Reproductive freedom, which we're concerned about. We've passed among the strongest abortion and reproductive freedom protection laws in the nation, but we're going to have to be prepared for potential incomings. Supreme Court has already done a lot of damage, but with all 3 chambers, if the House goes, you know, what could happen as a national matter in terms of legislation? Guns, where we lead the nation in gun safety. By the way, our crime story is a home run crime story. Frankly, nationally, it's also moving in the right direction. But again, the other guys played that card really well. Immigration, you know, what's going to happen? You know, one question I think we all need to ask, is he actually going to do some of the stuff that he said he would do? And, you know, taking the U.S. military and putting it against our own citizens, mass deportations. You asked me, ma'am, what I stand by the community. That's a good example of we're going to make sure people know exactly where we stand.